wish to speak, if you could wave your hand at me or something, catch my eye, and then when I invite you to speak, we ask you to stand, switch your microphone on by pressing the button, the red light will come on, and then when you've said what you want to say, sit down again and turn the microphone off. If we have more than 2 or 3 microphones on at a time, it gets interesting. We are live streaming. So if there are members of the public out there who are interested, they may well be watching. So just bear that in mind when you're talking. So we'll start off in the usual way with apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have apologies for absence from Councillors Hipsey, Venning and Lewis.
Thank you very much. As the Deputy Mayor isn't here, I don't have my co-pilot with me, so I don't have the second pair of eyes watching for people who are waving at me, and I've not noticed them. So if I don't see you, please just wave a bit more vigorously or grunt or do something to catch my attention. Believe me, I'm not trying to avoid calling you to speak, it's just that I haven't seen you. Declarations of interest. Does anyone have any declarations of interest to make at this stage, please? Okay, that's fine. As usual, if you become aware of anything as we go through the agenda, please make it known straight away. Thank you very much. Minutes of the Council meeting on the 26th of November. To confirm the minutes as a true record. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Parker, and a seconder, Councillor Ewings. Any comments or questions? All in favour, please show.
Carried.
Thank you very much. Public representations and questions, we have not received any. So we move on to items requiring a decision. Number 5, General Finance. A, schedule of payments to consider and endorse the monthly accounts as at the 30th of November. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Are you happy to endorse? Yes? Okay. So 5B, budget monitoring report. Consider and endorse the phased budget monitoring report as at the 30th of November. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Considered. All happy to endorse?
Yeah, agree.
And then external audit, to receive for information the report of the external auditor in respect of the financial year 23-24, and you have a copy of the external auditor's report in your bundle. And there is one paragraph which is the most important one, which reads, on the basis of our review of sections 1 and 2 of the annual governance and accountability return, in our opinion, the information in sections 1 and 2 of the AGAR is in accordance with proper practices, and no other matters have come to our attention giving cause for concern that relevant legislation and regulatory requirements have not been met. In other words, a clean bill of health. Okay, so we then move on to item 6, development, management and license. Sorry, Councillor Parker.
Yeah, can I just ask how that front page fits with the following page, where it seems to say we've not been able to do the work?
I'll ask the clerk to explain that to you.
No, it's a fair question. In normal circumstances, you would receive the second page, which is headed Section 3, External Auditor's Report. The External Auditor had some difficulties this year with processing a number of their cases, and as a precaution, what they did was they sent out the second page that you've got, which is basically saying we don't think we're going to be able to do it in time. They have an obligation, if they can, to meet the 30th of September deadline. And what they were able to do then was to subsequently send the first page that you have. And normally the wording which is on that would be the wording which they would actually insert on the other page, but they were unable to do so, and they did manage to get it to us in the nick of time, I think it's fair to say.
Thank you, Town Clerk. Just proving that I read it.
So if I've understood correctly, Town Clerk, the problem was the auditors, not the councils.
Correct.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs Johnson, and then Councillor Ewings, please.
Thank you. I'm a bit confused by the wording on section 3 on page 6, which says we have not been able to complete our review work in time to enable 2 smaller authority. Is that a typo there? Because it occurs in the previous paragraph as well. Should it be the smaller authority, or what should the wording be? Because if they've got a word wrong, it can have a significant implication sometimes.
The difficulty is they've got a statutory deadline, we've got a statutory deadline, and essentially what they were saying there, we can't meet our statutory deadline unless they meet theirs. So what they are doing is effectively in that one saying that in these circumstances the council would not be able to meet its deadline either.
I think
Have I misunderstood you?
I think you have.
Sorry.
Yes. Councillor Johnson.
I think the word 2 is wrong in that context. If you look across, work in time to enable 2 smaller authorities.
Oh, sorry.
So I
The
think
smaller, it should be.
yes, and they've got it wrong in the previous paragraph, which doesn't give me a lot of confidence in their ability to do some of this work.
Councillor Ewings.
I have to say I agree with that statement from Councillor Mrs Johnson. I was also just going to add is all council accounts up and down the country are in a bit of a pickle because of the lack of auditors, basically. So there are some very large councils, shire councils, so counties, etc. Some of them haven't had their accounts audited for over 5 years. And they're having to go through every year with unaudited accounts. Fortunately, in West Devon, and with Tavistock, because ours are always done at the same time, we always have a good clean bill of health. And that has enabled the auditors to look at us in a slightly different way that somebody else's, where they've got to go through every cost code and every figure that's written in. They know with ours, with record, and I think at one point, I think some others now are, because a whole load was signed off before the end of the year, of the calendar year, as opposed to the financial year, where 2 or 3, 4 years were finally sort of signed off, but I'm not sure how much they were looked into. So a lot of this is, as the town clerk's already said, is down to the auditors, not to us. But the team at West Devon badgered, I think is about the best word to use politely, the auditors to sign off the accounts. And because ours is such an easy do, and down here is, because it's always been the same auditors, it was very easy to complete without having to go through full soup and fish.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Parker.
Can I just confirm then that it's the same auditors for the 2 authorities?
I don't think it is now.
Because now I'm also puzzled about the use of the phrase "the smaller authority."
Yes, Town Clerk.
Yeah. Sorry, just to clarify, appointments are made separately for principal authorities to town and parish councils because we operate under 2 different audit regimes. Yeah. It doesn't mean to say that we may not have the same auditor, but the appointments process is a different appointments process. Yeah. We are subject to what is called a limited assurance opinion. It is, as the name suggests, but it's even more than that, it is very, very limited in terms of what the auditor looks for. And the difficulty that you've got within the sector at the moment is that you could have a council which has got a budget of £100,000 as a town or parish, and you could have one which has got a budget of £6 million, and they are audited in exactly the same way, on exactly the same information, irrespective of the size, the scale, the complexity of those. My personal view, and this is a personal view, but it's one which is shared by many colleagues within the sector, is that for councils of our size, the limited assurance regime is not fit for purpose. It was intended to be very much the Eric Pickles, the armchair auditor, if you like. The person sitting in their armchair would be able to have enough information to be able to comment in a meaningful way and critique in a meaningful way the way in which a council operates. I don't think it does that for councils of our size and of our type, but it is a very difficult one. There's an organisation called SAAA, which is the Smaller Authorities Audit Appointments, something like that, body which actually manages this. They are looking at that at the moment, but it is a hard one, and as Councillor Ewings has said, when you actually get larger, I mean, there is a larger council in our sector that I'm aware of, which has just gone through the £6.5 million threshold, which takes them into the same audit arrangements as West Devon would be, and as yet they've been unable to source an auditor. So it is a difficult area currently.
Are we done with that item? Okay, thank you. So now let's move on to item 6, Development Management and Licensing Committee. Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to present the Development Management and Licensing Committee minutes from the 10th of December on there, which was 242, apologies for absence, 243, confirmation of minutes, 244, declarations of interest, 245, Dartmoor National Park Authority. On this item, the Dartmoor National Park had sent through a planning application validation checklist, which is a 2-year requirement under their conditions, to get it reviewed by it's for advice for people putting in for planning applications and guidance on there. Due to the time scales that were required for the return, which was before this meeting, we considered it, we viewed it. It's a rather lengthy document which goes into many various sections on there, but it is good and is very similar to what it was before. It's a few changes. And the recommendation that we came to, we sent through a neutral view to them on the response, and the recommendation is that the council endorse the response as given above or at the next council meeting, which is now.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. So under normal circumstances, we would have brought this to full council for ratification before submitting it to the DNPA, but it just wasn't possible on this occasion. So we submitted our comments, and we just ask council now if you would be kind enough to endorse that recommendation.
Okay. I would add, Mr. Mayor, that the responses that they get will be considered and then reissued out again before it becomes their sort of document that changes.
Thank you.
So we will see it one more time before it goes on there.
Councillor Parker. Sorry, could you say again?
I move that we endorse.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got a proposal that we endorse. Can I have a seconder, please? And all in favour, please, show.
Carry.
Okay,
Councillor
246. Thank you. 246, town planning issues. 247, general correspondence. 248, Tavistock neighbourhood development plan. 249, urgent business brought forward at the discretion of the chairman. 250, planning application, little a, planning decisions, and little b, new planning applications, and it's recommended that the views of the town council as listed in appendix B be passed to the local planning authority for consideration.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Smith has moved the recommendation. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Parker, and all in favour, please show.
Carry.
Thank you.
Okay. 251, next meeting, and we move on, Mr Mayor, to the meeting last night of the Development Planning and Licensing Committee on the Monday the 6th. And we have 252, apologies for absence, 253, confirmation of minutes, 254, declarations of interest, 255, Dartmoor.
Excuse me, Councillor Smith. I told you I don't have my co-pilot here today. Councillor Mrs Ewings.
Was that subtle enough? I received today from the office details of a complaint that had been made to West Devon Borough Council about a planning application that, for an IT outage, did not get put onto the relevant applications. I've got the email in front of me from Mr Hewings, the planning officer, administrator, whatever he is now, not a planner, about this. And I've then now just seen which applications it referred to.
It's 62 Plymouth Road,
I know, I've got it
the
here.
Alexandra Centre.
So I'm now a bit concerned that it's all gone through tickety-boo, but actually we weren't in favour of it, and actually I was really against it. So I'm now a bit, what would you like me to do, or are you going to do as the office? Because I'm not happy about this now.
I received that email as well, and basically they've said it was an outage on this occasion, but it's not the first time it's happened. That's why it was a chain of emails, because we raised it several months ago when a previous number of applications, our responses have not been put on the portal. So I've asked the administrator to list the ones that are missing, and then I will go back to Mr Hewings and raise it with him. I don't think it was a one-off.
I'm sure it wasn't a one-off. Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Ewings. That is really helpful. But there's a consequence. because this council objected, but the objection didn't make it through either to the portal, and it's still not on the portal, or to the case officer. That objection was not registered, and the officer was recommending approval. Then under West Devon's constitution, that application should have been given to offered to the two ward members, or to the ward members to call into committee. And because of that failure, that didn't happen. Now I think as the Assistant Town Clerk has said, that is not the first time this has happened. I can think of one that was equally contentious. I think it was on Chapel Street a couple of years ago, where the same thing happened. So there really is, it's not just an admin glitch, there's a consequence in relation to the Council's constitution as well.
So my question was, what would you like me to do? Because I will do it.
Shall we leave it until I respond? And obviously I will copy you into that response to point out that this wasn't a one-off. And then obviously once that is, you're aware of that in the wider thing, that perhaps you pick it up then. But I feel we need to go back to challenge the idea that it's a one-off.
Right.
But I will copy you into that response. Yeah.
Right.
So, sorry if I may, Mr. Mayor. And I think at that stage it would be helpful to have a reassurance and an assurance that this has now been dealt with and that it will be monitored going forwards to ensure that it doesn't happen again, perhaps, if that's possible.
That has been stated in the email, that that is going to be the case, that they have asked us here, not me, up there, they have asked Tavistock Town Council to notify them every time we send things through the portal to alleviate this happening. But I am aware now that this is not the first, and I'm in a bit of a difficult situation, but actually this is wrong. This